All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we have for our first video, Young Yeah. We all know him. We all love him. Amazing man. Amazing creator. Amazing creator. And video is about RAM companies, stock price plummeting, and the RAM prices go down. But what's the catch to it? That we will find out. Here we go.
All right, let's talk about DRAM and the various situations surrounding it that have developed over the last couple of days. Be it the decrease in prices we've seen in RAM, nothing to the point of where it was originally, but some kind of a dip in general price points, combined with RAM companies seeing their stock price just plummet recently, alongside rumors that OpenAI's deal to consume up to like 40% of the world's RAM all the way back last year may have been non-binding and something that OpenAI may not be pursuing to the fullest extent, leaving RAM companies in the wind. And that aspect is, nothing that I've seen fully confirmed, but there seemed to be enough traction surrounding that aspect that it's worth covering at the very least. So if you go to, say, like Best Buy right now, you'll find that RAM such as this, Corsair's Vengeance 32 gigabytes DDR5 kit here, went from $542 or $543 down to $350. So that's like a decent reduction. And then beyond that, you've got news outlets like WCCF Tech talking about how DDR5 memory prices just took a noticeable dive recently for the first time in months. All we have seen is just essentially a steady rise, but
that's great. Well, first of all, I want to say that's great. If you guys are like, we're hurting to buy RAM, I would highly recommend looking at RAM right now. And as it drops, try to be like the first people to buy it and everything like that. It was just like the this reminds me of the GPU shortage, or like the when the 30 series cards came out for Nvidia, where there was you get this, not the scammers, oh goodness, scalpers. There you go. The scalpers that were like auto purchasing everything and then using them as like crypto mining cards and stuff. Once MSI came out and said, hey, we have a card for like certain people. I didn't realize I had an email. Sorry. But anyway, I had an email for like MSI and stuff like that, and they said like, hey, we have a 3080 for you. If you want to buy it, you got like 10 minutes. And I was like, oh shit. So let me go buy. Like, I immediately went and bought it and everything like that. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, once you see hardware and stuff like that, where there's a huge price dip, buy that. Like you jump on that, especially if it's because you never know, it may go back up. There's a chance it might go lower, but are you really going to take that risk if there's going to be like a $200 drop, like decrease on the price? Are you willing to wait for it to go down to like another like $100, or are you just gonna like purchase it there because it could be a possibility to go back up? Who knows?
It looks like we're seeing some kind of stabilization on that end, though again, nothing close to what these prices were originally. But yeah, we're seeing significant drops, prices seeing kind of a decrease of up to $100 per kit over at Amazon. WCCF Tech noticed that the Vengeance CDR5 SKUs, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 6400 megahertz, went from $490 to $380. 16 gigabyte modules went from $260 to $220. And in part, some of this can be traced to Google's recent announcement via the Google Research social media page. They announces brand new invention that they're calling TurboQuant, their new compression algorithm that reduces LLM key value cache memory by at least 6 times and delivers up to 8 times speed up, all with 0 accuracy loss, redefining AI efficiency.
Ooh.
So what this basically means is that companies will need less RAM to achieve the same output, and that announcement has caused kind of a bit of a chain reaction. Among them being investors having knee-jerk reactions to this news, believing that RAM is no longer as lucrative, and so they pulled out of RAM companies like Micron. You can see right here that from the announcement,
Oh, Micron. Ooh. If you guys do not recall what happened with Micron, this is the same company that announced that they are no longer selling their RAM and memory to the public. They're like, hey, we're closing off from public buyers like yourself and like me, and we are only selling to AI data centers. That's pretty much what happened, and that caused a huge spike in RAM price increase. Yeah, so let's see what they have to say in the future.
Announcement onwards, we saw a pretty significant dip in stock price. Same thing with SK Hynix, whose stock saw a dip shortly after Google's announcement of this algorithm. And then we've got Samsung itself also seeing pretty significant dips over the last few days. The belief is that because of this new algorithm, there will be less demand for RAM on the part of AI companies because they can achieve certain results using a lot less RAM than they used to if this Google algorithm ends up being successfully implemented. And there's also general belief that Google's new algorithm is in part why DRAM prices have been dropping off a little bit, because there's this prediction of less demand moving forward because this algorithm will make it so that you need less RAM, like 6 times less RAM, to achieve certain kinds of results. And so there's this hope that maybe RAM prices will dip back down to what they were before. Now, there is some nuance to all of this. While we have seen RAM prices drop, it certainly hasn't been to a level that indicates that we're going to see prices before the AI DRAM hoarding craze. And some news outlets like PC Gamer highlight that what they're noticing isn't necessarily this massive drop off and crash of DRAM prices, but rather a stabilization of these prices still within a pretty high area of price range compared to where they were before, with the Google announcement potentially having some influence. But generally, what PC Gamer has noticed is that a lot of the stuff is just sales rather than a pattern showing that DRAM overall industry-wide will start to crash to price points that are more reasonable. PC Gamer's research showed that a lot of these price drops happened prior to Google's announcement, and most of what they've seen were essentially discounts rather than a market-wide shift towards significantly lower prices. They insist that that doesn't seem to be on the cards just yet.
But is it possible for, I don't know, is it possible that these companies got caught wind of it before this, before the actual announcement? Hey, we heard about this new Google tech that has been circulating. Well, it's not been circulating, but we caught wind of it. We might want to jump ship type of thing. The reason why I say this is because it was just how kind of different, but then again with stocks and stuff, investors or stock prices with Pearl Abyss, how it took a nosedive when Crimson Desert came out, or before it was coming out, it took a nosedive, and then Crimson Desert did their patches and everything and people loved it, and then somehow the stock started to shoot back up. Those investors came back and purchased more stock. So I wonder if that's the case.
It mainly feels like the inflation overshot itself a little bit and now it's starting to stabilize at price points that are lower than the peak, but still pretty high up there, and will probably stay that way still for many years to come because DRAM demand is still pretty high because AI data centers are still being built en masse.
So that's fair. It's not super crazy high premium, but it's still pretty high end, I guess you say, for pricing.
A news outlet echoing similar sentiments is CNBC. In this article titled "A Google AI Breakthrough is Pressuring Memory Chip Stocks from Samsung to Micron," it is detailed by analysts such as Ray Wang, here a memory analyst at Semi-Analysis. While Google's new algorithm does mean that RAM can be used more efficiently, what that ultimately means is that advancements will be made so that it maximizes Google's algorithm, and then from there will still be more demand for RAM in order to further take the technology forward. Here's the direct quote from Wong: "When you address a bottleneck, you're going to help AI hardware to be more capable, and the training model will be more powerful in the future." When the model becomes more powerful, you require better hardware to support it. The Google algorithm gives AI more headway to make more advancements, but those advancements will happen pretty quickly and will reach the cap that will essentially still yield more demand for RAM. And so another analyst, such as Ben Berenger here, head of technology research at Quilter Chevier, told CNBC, quote, "The Google TurboQuant innovation has added to the pressure, but this is evolutionary, not revolutionary. It does not alter the industry's long-term demand picture." The big issue with AI right now is that compute isn't at a high enough level for it to keep up with the rate at which AI is developing and the demand that it has for compute power. The new Google algorithm will help mitigate some of that, but not to such a high enough degree that suddenly there's way less demand for RAM. The demand for RAM will still continue to persist for a long while. Another article that shared similar sentiments is this one right here from the Register, whose headline reads, "Memory makers' shares are down. Some RAM prices have eased. Blaming Google is not a good idea." And they spotlighted analysts believe that more efficient AI will actually just create more demand for AI because it'll mean that making AI will be easier as this industry continues to grow. And then beyond that, there's also the fact that supply for RAM will be more limited due to ongoing conflicts right now, like the war in the Persian Gulf, which means it'll be hard to meet the demand for RAM because the conflict has damaged the supply chain for helium, a vital component in semiconductor production that can mean chip makers can't make all the RAM they assumed would inflate their revenue and profits. And so yeah, it's important to highlight that just because we're seeing RAM prices decrease a little bit for the first time in a while, that doesn't mean that we're headed towards a short-term full-on correction of this market where prices will go back to the way they used to be. And while any kind of price decrease is a good thing, still, when you look at the present prices, even after those price decreases, they are still at significantly higher prices than their all-time lows. Like, yes, it's good to see that Corsair Vengeance's RGB DDR5 6000 32 gigabyte kit went down in price from $410 to $370. Once upon a time, you could buy that RAM kit for, at their lowest $87. So it's still really bad. I'm just seeing a lot of social media activity that like, it's over. RAM prices will go back to normal. And that's just not the case. We're just seeing some kind of market correction that...
Yeah, people are just excited that it's lowered, lowered right now because, again, people were struggling that RAM has been pretty high for quite some time. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's just, again, it's just like with the GPU, crypto mining era where GPUs are still expensive, but at that time, especially with the 30 series, we started to see prices start to go down a little bit, and people were like, "Oh my goodness!" Like now we're going to get like decent pricing for GPUs. No. It's because they're also working on the 40 series cards and stuff at that time as well. Especially 30 series just came out, and they're already working on a 40 series. So I mean, that was that case too. Prices are still high.
Nowhere near comes close to the original prices we've seen for these kits back when AI wasn't hoarding all the RAM. Now, another area of rumors and speculation that we're seeing is potential reports of RAM prices plummeting, in part because of OpenAI's failure to fulfill its commitment to purchase 40% of world supply. Referring to this article right here from back in October 1st, 2025 from Tom's Hardware, reporting that OpenAI's Stargate project will consume up to 40% of global DRAM output, with OpenAI having inked deals with Samsung and SK Hynix to the tune of up to 900,000 wafers per month. What we're starting to hear from multiple sources is that those deals that OpenAI made with RAM companies like Samsung and SK Hynix were not legally binding. There were letters of intent, but nothing that was fully secured as a sure thing. Back when this Tom's Hardware article first released, the speculation was that this deal has led to money actually being exchanged and that the DRAM was reserved for OpenAI and that was like a fully done deal. But what recent reports are saying is that the purchase orders were never actually real. Akash Gupta had the following to say on the matter. On October of 2025, Sam Altman flew to Seoul and signed simultaneous deals with Samsung and SK Hynix for 900,000 DRAM wafers per month.
Wow.
That's 40% of global supply. Neither company knew the other was signing a similar commitment at the same time. The pricing and terms would have looked very different if they had. And that was no doubt a scheme that OpenAI and Sam Altman perpetuated on purpose. Those deals, quote unquote, were letters of intent, not binding purchase orders. No RAM actually changed hands, but the market treated them as real. The market treated this deal as if it was like ironclad and that money would get exchanged and the 900,000 DRAM wafers per month would be going to OpenAI as if that wafer was just no longer available to the rest of the market. And so contract DRAM prices jumped by 171%. A 64 gigabyte DDR5 kit went from $190 to $700 in 3 months. DDR4 kits that should have been in oversupply doubled. Retailers stopped posting prices entirely. Now, the speculation from this has become that, well, it looks like there's actually more RAM available than we initially thought because OpenAI's deal with Samsung and SK Hynix was a letter of intent. That 900,000 wafers per month didn't go to OpenAI. It actually still exists on the market. And so the realization of the higher supply of DRAM is what's causing the price of DRAM to drop. But Akash Gupta says that DDR5 prices are finally dropping for the first time in months, but it has nothing to do with OpenAI walking away from anything, but rather it's more to do with Google announcing that Turbo Quant technology algorithm on March 24th. And so the final conclusion that Akash presented here is that one company, OpenAI, locked up 40% of global memory with commitments it may never fulfill, with a letter of intent that does not actually translate to a purchase order. And then a different company, Google, published.
So is it, and he might answer this, but is it possible like the pricing of RAM that people are purchasing now, like as the price decrease, are people purchasing that 900,000 RAM wafers? Is that what the I wonder if that's what the possibility is, that like for the drop, you know, maybe people are purchasing those 900,000 RAM wafers, because that is insane that OpenAI is doing stuff like this. They're like, hey, we're gonna buy this stuff, but you know, we're buying it at this price, and then like without telling the other company, hey, we're gonna buy this at this price. Bro, that is, oh man, that's crazy.
Published a research paper. The research paper is doing more for RAM prices than the entire supply chain has done in 6 months. Now, this report conflicts with what PC Gamer is saying, where from their research, they noticed that a lot of the price drops happened before Google's announcement of their new algorithm. And so that's where the story gets a little murky. There are a lot of different perspectives on why the price of DRAM recently dropped. Some are saying that it's just discounts. Others are saying that Google's algorithm announcement was a direct cause. Others are saying it was just basic market correction where inflation kind of skyrocketed above where it should be, and now it's starting to fall and then stabilize, but still at price points that are unreasonable compared to where they used to be. And when it comes to these reports that the deals that OpenAI made with SK Hynix and Samsung were letters of intent, it's something that a couple of folks are like spouting, but we don't have like true, real confirmation that this is true. We don't know what the exact sources of this information are. And so I'm choosing to present this information with a caveat of wait until we get like true official confirmation from reliable outlets and sources who confirm the legitimacy of this report that the deals were letters of intent and nothing ironclad. But it feels potentially relevant enough that at the very least I wanted to posit this theory and this, you know, alleged report that's going around. That's
it's a lot of possibilities. There's many possibilities in theories that people are just coming out and saying it's not a confirmed thing. So yeah, take it as a grain of salt.
Some people like Akash Gupta are presenting pretty confidently. And furthermore, he kind of outlined the timeline of events amidst these new revelations, saying that in October of 2025, Sam Altman flew to Seoul and signed this deal with SK Hynix and Samsung. He insists that these deals were letters of intent, non-binding, no RAM actually changed hands, no money was actually exchanged. But because the speculation became that OpenAI had like fully acquired all that RAM, RAM. The panic surrounding that report of this deal that actually turned out to be letters of intent led to all companies feeling like they have to buy up all the RAM before it all runs out and before prices skyrocket. And so that is what ultimately caused the supply shortage as well as the mass inflation of RAM kits for the public. And then in December of 2025.
So basically, is it because OpenAI, like Sam Altman and OpenAI did that, they caused this is what I'm guessing where they're coming from, is that since Sam Altman and OpenAI made that purchase of the 900,000 RAM kits, that in the price increase that it made other companies panic and want to purchase too, which means for the public you're kind of like SOL. Yeah, I'm guessing that's what's going on, right? I have to look more into this like myself, but this is very, very interesting.
Micron kills Crucial, its 29-year-old consumer memory brand, to reallocate every wafer to AI and enterprise customers. Yeah. Micron being the third largest manufacturer of RAM below Samsung and SK Hynix. The company, Micron, explicitly said it was exiting consumer memory to improve supply and support for our largest strategic customers in faster-growing segments. Basically saying it's more profitable to sell RAM to AI than to consumers. Or as, Akash Gupta put it, translation, the AI demand signal was so loud that selling RAM to PC builders stopped making financial sense compared to selling to AI companies en masse.
Let me give you a big old shout out. There you go. Playing Apex? Heck yeah. Heck yeah. How's it going, everybody? Hello. Malfacino, Battlefield content creator. Right now we're reacting to stuff going on in the gaming industry. Like right now with the whole RAM, like PC RAM and memory, currently pricing is going down, but it may not be like a 100% thing. It's probably just like a small, a little small thing going on right now. It was a good play some ranked and got my diamond. Ooh, okay. How are you? Good. We're just hanging out right now, doing a little bit of reactions, and yeah.
6, which is now Google publishes Turbo Quad.
If you do have to rate and run, I totally understand. It's completely understandable. I get it. So, but yeah, if you have to rate and run, that's totally understandable. If you want to stay, hey, by all means.
A compression algorithm that reduces memory requirements by 6 times with 0 accuracy loss. Cloudflare CEO called it Google's DeepSeek. The entire thesis that AI would consume infinite memory forever just got a 6-month expiration date on it. And on that same month, OpenAI and Oracle canceled the Abilene Stargate expansion, which we'll get to in a bit. The $500 billion data center vision that justified the RAM deals just couldn't survive its own financing terms. Bloomberg attributed the collapse partly to OpenAI's often changing demand forecasts. And then here's the real kicker for Micron, the company that exited the consumer business in favor of AI. Micron is now down 33% from its post-earnings high. Ooh. Revenue is up 196% year over year. EPS up 682%. And the stock is in free fall because the company restructured its entire business around a demand signal that came from non-binding letters and is now being compressed out of existence by a research paper. Micron bet the consumer division on Sam Altman's signature, that the letter of intent would go beyond just a letter of intent, but the signature was worth exactly what the paper said. Nothing binding, absolutely zero, until Sam Altman decides that the letter of intent becomes more, that it's a deal that he does want to secure, which currently, based on the reports out there that, again, are not fully confirmed quite yet, seem to indicate that Sam Altman has no intention to fulfill the letter of intent to buy.
It's basically like he did a pre-order. In gamer terms, he did a pre-order for Call of Duty. He's like, hey, I want this next Call of Duty game to be like this, yada yada yada, right? So then Activision and Infinity Ward and everybody, they've made this Call of Duty game ready for him to go, and ready to sell to him, and he's like, I don't know if I want to buy it yet. I have the pre-order, but I haven't fully committed yet to purchasing it. Ouch. Damn.
buy up all that RAM. And the double whammy is Google announcing this algorithm that makes the demand for RAM significantly less. But again, this conflicts with what some analysts are saying, where just because the algorithm optimizes RAM usage doesn't mean that computation has caught up with the power demand of AI. And so even with that algorithm, the demand for RAM is going to be really, really high for many years to come, is what a lot of analysts are saying. And so a lot of analysts are saying that while Google's algorithm might lead to some kind of market correction, it's not going to lead to the price drops that people are anticipating. But all this does coincide with a recent pattern we're seeing from OpenAI, which is that they're spending less money on expanding data centers and are instead kind of committing more to renting data centers from other companies. So for example, right here we have a March 6, 2026 article titled "Oracle and OpenAI End Plans to Expand Flagship Data Center." They're originally planning to secure an expansion site for their flagship Stargate data center project from developer Crusoe. But according to this Bloomberg article, Oracle and OpenAI's plans on that front were scrapped because negotiations
Hey T, how's it going?
dragged over financing and OpenAI's changing needs. And so instead, NVIDIA and Meta are stepping into that expansion side, while OpenAI is just keeping what they already have and choosing to expand in other avenues. Right here we have a CNBC article from March 22nd, 2026, detailing all of this. Here's the headline, which reads, "OpenAI's data center pivot underscores Wall Street spending concerns ahead of IPO," or going public.
Ouch.
OpenAI has tempered expectations. OpenAI has come to the realization that the market doesn't necessarily appreciate the reckless approach to growth and spending, is what CEO of Futurum Group Daniel Newman had to say. And scrolling further down, you'll find a segment that highlights how OpenAI has had to retreat from some hefty spending plans and accept OpenAI's role as a purchaser of massive amounts of cloud capacity rather than as a builder of mammoth data centers.
Yeah, because isn't it possible? Like, OpenAI was spending over like $14 billion a day. It's something like that. Like OpenAI it wasn't like a stab. It was like a gash. It's like you hit an artery, like the money artery with OpenAI. Like daily, $14 billion is insane.
That's an area where they're retreating, which explains their exit from expanding their Stargate project, instead renting out servers from companies like Amazon. A move that Microsoft, one of OpenAI's biggest partners, didn't foresee, and so Microsoft is thinking about suing OpenAI over their recent deal with Amazon and using their cloud services. Microsoft believed that OpenAI would use Microsoft's cloud services exclusively as part of their partnership, but OpenAI claims that API products developed with third parties will be exclusive to Microsoft's Azure, while non-API products may be served on any cloud provider. Microsoft disagrees, believing that OpenAI is offering access to Frontier via Amazon.
Yeah, corporations are spending crazy amounts of money. Is so much numbers, geez, and they're just throwing money at it like it's nothing. It was just crazy.
On web services Bedrock platform would be in breach of the exclusivity agreement. But the speculation out there is that Sam Altman's retreat from building data centers means potentially less demand for RAM, or less RAM being purchased en masse from companies like Micron and the like. And that's in part why RAM prices are dropping a little bit, and why the stock prices of RAM companies are dropping significantly. But yeah, there are plenty of reports out there that OpenAI's plans to expand the Stargate data center has proven to be really difficult due to just, behind the scenes struggles when it comes to like reaching a good financial deal, combined with reliability issues and weather elements that have come into play. But at the same time, reports do state while this one expansion plan for Stargate get canceled, that doesn't mean that there aren't other expansion plans going on. Oracle's general partnership with OpenAI remains unchanged, says this Tom's Hardware article. In July of last year, Oracle agreed to develop 4.5 gigawatts of data center capacity for OpenAI, and that program continues. The companies have also announced projects in other locations, including a site near Detroit owned by Related Digital. So while Sam Altman is scaling back on expansion plans, that doesn't mean that they are like canceled outright. They're just happening elsewhere. And so
they're backing away from certain. They're backing away from commitments. Let's put it that way. Like they initiated them, but then they're like not fulfilling them. They're not finalizing them. They're just like, this is still up in the air. We're just gonna keep it up in the air, kind of thing. It's like it seems like they're leading on like with OpenAI. It's like it seems like they're leading on with these deals and things like that, because they'll talk about it and everything, but nothing is finalized. Everything is just still up in the air, and I guess people are just automatically going for it because I'm guessing, I don't know, maybe it's the number that the pricing number that OpenAI has gave them, that they're like, all right, yeah, cool, type of thing. Like, I don't want to say OpenAI is like rug pulling them, but it seems very fishy. Like, if I was a company and then OpenAI decided to come at me and come to me about wanting to do some sort of like partnership or a contract or something like that, and they're like, they offered me a number, a pretty hefty number, I'd just be like, doing research, looking at like past companies that worked with OpenAI and like the status of those deals and everything like that. It make me kind of iffy about them.
That does indicate that demand for RAM will still persist, even with Google's algorithm, even if the deal that OpenAI signed with SK Hynix and Samsung were letters of intent. That still did cause a mass RAM panic that did lead to all of the hoarding, that did lead to a supply constraint, that did lead to price inflations. All of that does still remain a reality.
You said I don't have kids, but if I have, I put the kids start just with it. I'm sorry. I put the kids start mess with AI, learning all this stuff about AI, because the future jobs will be the employees work with AI while I go to college or whatever. I will say this, that is going to be, it's understandable, like being like a software engineer for AI. But the issue with that, we're already seeing that happening. People are losing their jobs. There was an article that hold on, let me see if I can find it. Hey, hold on. I gotta pull up my email and all that stuff. 1 second. Where'd it go? Okay. So yeah, there's this article right here, and this is Oracle, like what Young is talking about. But yeah, Oracle just laid off 20 to 30,000 employees Tuesday morning, roughly 18% of its global workforce, via a single email sent at 6 a.m. EST with no prior warning. Systems access was revoked almost immediately after. The cuts were expected to free up $8 to $10 billion in cash flow. Oracle stock has lost more than half of its value since September 2025, and the company now carries over $124 billion in debt, up from $89 billion a year ago, with free cash flow running negative $10 billion last quarter. Basically, these people have lost their jobs to the AI as well. So it's very interesting. Again, this is like all this is just all this is just like certain takes. It's not like a for sure thing. But yeah, it's just crazy. So they said that my take, it says Oracle posted a 95% jump in net income last quarter and still eliminated 18% of its workforce by email before most people finished their morning coffee. This is not a company in distress in the traditional sense. It's a company that made an enormous debt funded bet on AI infrastructure and is now converting its workforce into cash flow to service that debt. So you put too much money into one thing and boom. It says that we covered Oracle's AI gamble for months. The $300 billion open AI deal through Stargate, $50 billion in capital expenditure this fiscal year, over $124 billion in total debt. Multiple U.S. banks have pulled back from financing Oracle-linked data center projects. Bondholders have sued Oracle, claiming it concealed how much additional debt the OpenAI deal would acquire. So again, it's the whole thing with OpenAI, where it comes to them not fully closing out the deal. There's like, hey, this is what we're talking about, and like this is what we want to do, and then people kind of jump on it. So it's crazy. Let's see that the credit default swap spread hit a 3-year high earlier this year, meaning debt investors are generally nervous about getting paid back. Let's see here, and then they said that the workers who got that 6 a.m. email built the products of Oracle has monetized for decades. So they're like, hey, you made this, but no longer your service is no longer required. Bye. Basically, they said that the bet that eliminated their jobs was made by people who have already paid, regardless of how it turns out. That is the part of the AI infrastructure race that doesn't show up on the CapEx announcements. So, yeah, it is insane. So then there's this little snippet right here. This says that the Oracle company found a new AI funding model. Fire the people who built the company. And then let's see here. Everybody reading their email. 6 a.m. says, I thought AI was supposed to automate meetings, not me. And then they said, we're not cutting people, we're converting payroll into infrastructure. And it says, don't worry, the humans we displaced were fully aligned with shareholder value. It's crazy. That's just insane to see that this is happening. So, yes, that is, that's one crazy way to look at it, I guess you would say. One crazy way. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up.
But that panic may have come off of a deal that wasn't ironclad, that were not in fact purchase orders, but just letters of intent. But regardless of the more nuanced details surrounding how all this played out the way it did, it doesn't change the fact that all this has ultimately still fucked the economy. It's fucked the market of computers and electronics and computing components. We're still looking at reports that highlight how massive investments in AI contributed basically zero to US's economic growth last year. It doesn't change the fact that companies like OpenAI are bleeding a lot of money on this gamble that AI will be the next big thing, that it will be adopted en masse, that it will become an essential technology that will allow OpenAI to become an essential company and therefore make just a boatload of money from their services. But that gamble involves bleeding a lot of money and burning through a lot of investments currently in the hopes that in the future, by like 2030 and whatnot, they'll actually be profitable and that the technology will be influential enough that it will be adopted en masse. But right now, we're seeing things like Oracle recently having fired 30,000 employees, Oracle being one of the companies that's closely working with OpenAI and NVIDIA to make this financial circle situation work for their plans to build data centers and invest in AI. The fact that Oracle is in such financial constraints, despite their record revenues and whatnot, amidst all of the AI data center building, that they still had to fire 30,000 employees to pay for AI data centers, just says a lot about the amount of money that is being bled. That's like 18% of their workforce. And so, yeah, whether this gamble pays off, that remains to be seen. But a lot of analysts seem to be in the belief that OpenAI's business model is one that should not be trusted and one that ultimately in the long term doesn't seem to be sustainable. And all the while they're causing irreparable damage to the consumer electronics market and not giving a shit about that aspect of things, as long as...
Yeah, again, it's insane because it's like they're doing this huge gamble, hopefully that it's successful. It's like literally going to Vegas and like betting everything, your plane ticket, like, you know, the prices of your plane tickets, your hotel, like the money that you had in reserves and everything, all your savings, like you're even putting up collateral for your house, you know, things like that. You're betting on making sure that you hit blackjack on this, or you hit like 00, like green 00s on roulette or something like that this hits, because if it doesn't, everything's gonna fall apart. So it's insane.
Their goals are served and met. All of this still ultimately highlights an incredibly irresponsible race towards AI dominance. Instead of pursuing the development of this technology at a steady pace and in a responsible pace, they're going all in, bum rushing this thing, because all these corporations know that the first to this race stands to profit tremendously and stand to be one of the most powerful entities in the world. But it's all still just a gamble. There's no guarantee that AI will be adopted at the level that these companies are expecting. There's no guarantee that they'll recoup the hundreds of billions that they're pouring into AI as a technology, that they recoup it at a level that is sustainable for, what is financially required to build out this technology. And even then, we don't know if this technology will be accepted at the level that these companies are praying it will be, because they put so many eggs in that basket. But yeah, when it comes to the recent RAM price decreases that are noticeable, but nowhere close to where they should be, especially when you look at price points from before. When it comes to the RAM company stock prices plummeting, and then when it comes to recent reports that OpenAI allegedly just did letters of intent for the deal to secure 40% of the world's DRAM wafer supply, this is where we're at with that matter, and hopefully.
So again, letters of intent, basically it's in consumer video game terms, is basically you're putting in a pre-order. It's like back in the day with like Xbox 360, PS3 and stuff like that. Basically it's just a pre-order. That's what they did. They're like, hey, we're putting in this pre-order of 900,000 RAM wafers or RAM sticks, pretty much. It hasn't been like, and these companies are creating them, right? And they're like, all right, we have them. We're working on them, or we have them made. When are you purchasing them? But they never put in the full payment for it.
This gives you some idea of like where the conversation's at right now.
We're using AI. We're helping AI evolve. Personally, I stopped using AI for now. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's like AI that I used to be honest is like when I Google search something, and like if I'm like searching for a game, or it's like awards for a game, and like it pops up in that AI overview. That's it. That's the only thing I pretty much use the AI for.
And as more information comes out, I'll be sure to update you on all the goings-ons of this wild, crazy, very quickly developing situation.
Yeah.
In the meantime, though, I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on everything surrounding RAM that we have learned over the last couple of days and weeks in the comments below. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
All righty. So that is Young Yeah with his video of the RAM company stock price plummeting and the prices go down. But so it is insane. Like from what I'm getting with this takeaway, and let me go ahead and copy this and put it in the chat. There you go. Yeah. So young like YOGN. Oh, sorry. No, YONG, and then yeah. Just it's just like it's like spelling yeah, but just take out the H. That's it. But yeah, great video. But yeah, it's so crazy seeing what's going on with AI data center stuff. Now again, it's still in the air. We don't know entirely what's going to happen. So people again, and the society is they're banking on hopefully that with this gamble that these corporations are doing, they want it to fail, right? So again, like these companies are putting everything up for collateral, and like pretty much people's jobs or livelihood, these data centers, things like that. Like all these purchases that they have, all these pre-orders that they have, they're putting all these things up on this AI gambling to hit that 00, that green zero from roulette, or to get blackjack, to get 21 or something like that. Like they're doing that double down, waiting for that card to hit, type of thing, while everybody else in society are standing behind them and like, fail, like don't do it, don't like, no, don't let it hit, don't hit. We're pretty much like this. We're pretty much the house, and we want to be the dealer that has that face card in blackjack where it's like a 10 and a face, or a face and a face. Like we want that, or when they put that card down and they look to see if that's an ace under it. That's what we're right now looking at when it comes into society. Because if the house wins, if society does win with this actually puts a lot of these companies in in a very bad spot. They're going to be losing a lot of money, which is unfortunately it's going to hurt. It's going to cause more layoffs, if I recall. Yeah, it's going to hurt more layoffs because they just lost a ton of money, and it's going to be hard to recoup that. But then again, this is from their own doing, because they wanted, every company that is invested in AI, they want to be the investing company. They want to be like the BlackRock. They want to be the vanguard of AI. Pretty much, that's what's going on. So anyway, but yeah, that is Young Ye's video. Okay, that is Young Ye's video, and it is it's amazing. It's a great thing. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about the whole thing with OpenAI and the way how it is going right now. Also, make sure to if you guys are trying to look for RAM and stuff, make sure you check right now, because the prices are slightly going down. It's not a full going down. It's not going down fully, but it also is something to check. So if you guys are looking to get more RAM, so make sure to check that out. And then also be sure to check out Young Ye over here. I'll have it linked down below as well. Okay, so I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much, and it's up to you. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Peace.